Hey everyone, and welcome to the very first edition of the African Conversation, live on What's Your Story Africa. TAC was born from something that I had observed on this platform, and that is everybody. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody has things to say. People share their comments, their ideas, their opinions, their questions, their expertise, and solutions that deserve to be part of the bigger conversation. Now, we are not all in the room where Africa's future is being discussed, yet so many of us have something to contribute. This is why we exist. The African Conversation is our way of opening that room alive for Africans on the continent and in the diaspora who care about Africa's future. Today, we begin with the global AI race and what it means for Africa. AI is already shaping jobs, education, security, business, governance, innovation, you name it. The question is, will Africa only consume what others build? Or will we participate, shape, build, regulate, and benefit from this new frontier? My panelists today bring the cybersecurity, inclusion, skills, AI strategy, business, and innovation lenses that we need for this conversation. I am joined by Charles Karanja. He's a senior incident responder at Virgin Media O2. Let's bring up Charles's profile. Let's see what's there. So Charles is like I said, a senior incident responder with Virgin Media O2. He is an accomplished leader with extensive experience spanning cybersecurity, stakeholder engagement, and community development. He has a proven track record of building strong relationships, fostering high-performing teams, and mentoring diverse professionals while consistently delivering results aligned with organizational goals. Throughout his career, Charles has successfully led major initiatives, managed complex incidents, and worked effectively across dynamic environments. Known for his strong stakeholder management skills, he is adept at engaging audiences at all levels and leveraging a diverse skill set to drive business objectives, strengthen collaboration, and create meaningful impact. We most certainly are very happy to have Charles with us. Our next panelist, let's bring up her profile. That would be Miss Lucy Mbuthia. Yes, there you are. Lucy Mbuthia is a Pan-African executive and digital transformation leader with over 12 years of experience in fintech, innovation, financial inclusion, and social impact. As the country director of Women in Tech Kenya, she champions gender inclusion and the advancement of women and girls in STEM fields across Africa. Recognized among the 45 most influential Women in Digital Transformation Africa 2025. Lucy is passionate about leveraging technology, AI, and innovation to drive sustainable development, economic empowerment, and digital inclusion. Through her leadership and advocacy, she continues to shape conversations around technology policy, digital transformation, and the future of Africa's digital economy. Last but not the least, we have from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, Mr. Tamiru Hassan. Tamiru is a business and technology transformational leader with over 20 years of experience across banking, finance, governance, and digital innovation in Ethiopia and the US. He's the founder and CEO of Pride AI and Business Solutions and formerly served as the Chief Portfolio Officer at Ethiopian Investment Holdings. His work focuses on helping organizations harness artificial intelligence, cloud technologies, and digital transformation to drive growth, efficiency, and impact. A Google Cloud and Workspace partner, Tamiru is passionate about innovation, storytelling, and building technology solutions that bridge business needs with emerging technologies. So let's bring up our panelists. As we say, thank you so much for being here. And also to the ones that tune into this conversation. If you'd like to participate, share your comments, your thoughts, challenge what you're hearing on this live stream. You're more than welcome just to be here. Karibu sana. Yes, I see you're all here. Lucy, Tamiru, Charles, who's in the UK. Is it winter there, Charles? Or is it
No.
summer? What are you going through?
Summer is loading. Summer is loading. Summer officially began June 1st.
Okay.
So loading. So yeah, we're just getting ready for a nice, wonderful time. So it's about 20 degrees today.
Okay.
Nice weather, cloudy, but good.
Thank you for representing the Kenyans in the diaspora.
No, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity and the privilege to be here with the greatness that's also around this table. And I know this is a conversation that definitely is going to be ongoing. It's not just a one-off, and we are looking to see how we can build Africa and make Africa the best.
Yeah, I like that. What's happening in your part of the world, Tamiru?
Thank you so much, Catherine. All is good here in Addis, in Ethiopia, with everything going on. You know, AI is a big thing, and I'm very glad to be here representing Ethiopia. I hope in the future session, I will not be the only one representing Ethiopia. We'll have more folks. Happy to have this conversation focusing on AI and really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And our country director for Women in Tech, yay, representing the women. Lucy, how are you?
I'm good, Catherine. Thank you for having me, and I really look forward to this conversation, especially on how we can get more women involved in AI and tech as a whole, but also what our role is individually, but as nations in joining the global AI race.
I like that. So I'm assuming you like me are in Nairobi.
Yes, I am in Nairobi.
Okay. So thank you so much all for just being here. Let's just have a great conversation and try to demystify AI. And I like what Lucy said as well. Like, you know, just having more women join into this field. Some of us assume it started a few years ago until you dig deep and you find, oh no, it's actually it's been there with us. It's been there with us long before some of us were born. But anyway, we start with you, Tamiru. Let me just have you start the conversation. When we talk about global AI race, what exactly are countries competing for? And perhaps more importantly, where does Africa currently stand?
Thank you again, Catherine. Yes, as you exactly noted, you know, AI has been a big thing the last few years, especially after the launch of ChatGPT in 2022. But as you exactly noted, the overall orchestration, research, and the deep work behind the scene has been there for more than 50 years. And, you know, we all human are passionately curious. We are always seeking answer for a lot of questions we have. And we used to leverage Google search and Yahoo, Bing, and many other platforms. But once this ChatGPT launch, when everybody realizes how the overall question and response becomes seamless, how we are able to consume very selected, smart, and helpful information in a very short time and in a very orchestrated manner. You know, with Google search and other, it will give you thousands of links where you have to further explore and everything. That whole thing brings a new dynamism with millions flocking through these AI models within days, you know. So even before talking about how this AI race evolved, I wanted to give some context, like how even the race between companies and even with the product evolved the past several years, the last few years especially. You know, after ChatGPT, many of the companies were focused into coming up with similar model. You know, if you see many of the follow-up ChatGPT chat models, they come with a similar interface with question and answer, and some has to maintain their legacy, and some have to innovate. And ChatGPT or OpenAI has to continue innovate to keep their user base and to monetize. So this whole race between companies continues tremendously. And the discussion has been, the past years has been around who has the best model, you know. And it is during these times that we noticed DeepSeek come up with a new model, which is reportedly costing very much budget compared to other model. Then the geopolitics thing came up, was going to be a big thing, and we start to notice about the China stack, the America stack, and the open stack, the closed stack, and companies try to, and nation try to associate themselves with either side for a number of reasons. But things evolve, even companies, for instance, one thing that excited me is, I'm by academic, I am accounting graduate, and we have this accounting principle, international accounting standard. US, they're usually known for their strict accounting rule. They call it US GAAP, and every little detail as to how you operate, it's singly laid out. But when it comes to AI, the US, even though there are many efforts at a state level, they intentionally didn't enforce a lot of regulation on the big tech companies, so that they give them leverage to continue innovate and to flourish through their innovation. Whereas if you go to Europe, they are heavily regulated their industry, where some claim this will reduce or impact our race in the global areas. China has its own strategy. So even before coming to Africa, the race of AI among different developed nations, even the major player, has evolved over time. And even AI, as we know, as a chatbot, has evolved tremendously. And companies start to notice chatbot, having a chatbot to ask a question and answer is not enough. They wanted to know more beyond talking to some models that has a general knowledge or world knowledge. They want to talk to their data, and some of the other improvement as well. Companies across talking to their data, they want to have control of their data. So all these shape up, and even some of the early key player within those big tech, they start to change the race, and they started a new race, thinking no, chatbot is no more the one that will take us to AGI or ASI, what they call artificial general intelligence, because everybody think like the more AI is smart and the more we use to leverage intelligence, it will take us to artificial intelligence, whereby it match human intelligence. At some point, it will exceed it, So that race has also evolved over time to the level, even recently, in recent months, if you look at some of the companies that deviate from some of these big tech launched a new model, what they call world model, So they wanted to explore AI not only from the digital question and answer, they wanted to question AI from the physical side of it, from the world side of it, which is immersed in our day-to-day, So when it comes to Africa, the whole AI race has evolved over time with competition between big tech, competition between companies throughout the world, and competition between nations. So what does Africa has been doing the last few years? Are we competing in a model or in a data or in some form of specialized hardware? We may not be there, but there are many bits and bits of activities happening in Africa. Whereas some African nation has done extraordinary steps showing urgency, intention, apart from expanding their digital infrastructure, working on model. Even I remember a number of documentaries. It's not like Africa was lacking in the race. Africa has enabled some of the race that has happened in the West. I remember Kenya companies helping in data training for US companies, even in a less fortunate situation, So we have been supporting those endeavors in a number of regards, but when it comes to Africa, we were pushing it in a different and disproportionate manner. Some very early stage, some advanced, some are still struggling in setting up their digital infrastructure. But what saddens me is, or what concerns me is, if you have been in many meetings, some of the key talk around is in Africa is out of 55 countries, 16 countries have finished their AI strategy, their AI policy, and this much number of countries, they still don't have regulation or AI strategy, So instead of talking about very grounded and advanced development, we are still at the early stage. Do we have the framework? Do we have the policy? I know some of the countries who aren't even able to push in that endeavor are due to they have to solve their infrastructure problem, the data problem, and several related regulatory problem. But we are in a disproportionate position. But the good thing with AI is it will give us a leap of faith to catch up and continue from the latest model. We are not expected to start from the older model of ChatGPT and incorporate it and to advance. We can, as a latecomer, we can catch up with the latest development. If we are able to manage the other side of the business, we can catch up, but we are growing and we are catching up at a disproportionate phase. I will pause there. Maybe I will continue further on a follow-up discussion, or unless you have some follow-up question.
That was quite extensive. But I saw both Lucy and Charles nodding to some of the things you're talking about. So I'll invite Lucy first to chime in, and then Charles can follow.
So I think the sentiments are clear. The data shows that ChatGPT was trained using young Kenyans and young Nigerians as well. I think Kenya was ranked as the top global country in the use of ChatGPT. And we've seen nations, Kenya has also developed their AI strategy. But I think in order for us to, quote unquote, win this global race or not be left behind or keep leapfrogging is how do those strategies now translate to a local level, right? How do we become, yes, our talent was used in building and training the data, but how do we become builders and owners as opposed to users? And I think that's where the strategies really need to come into play in how young Africans in general can just be incentivized to build our own models, right? It will be expensive, but can we build on top of the already existing models? Build our own data sets that we can use to train the models, contextualize the GPTs into also our local languages. And I think that's where a lot of work needs to be done in translating these strategies, but also support given in us as Africans being builders and owners of AI tools and AI implementations as well.
So something interesting you've said there, and Charles, I'll give you an opportunity to just chime in. You said that ChatGPT used Kenyans and Nigerians to test?
To train. So the initial data that ChatGPT data sets, the initial data was built by young Kenyans and Nigerians. And instead they were using data from, yes, of course, they use data from Kenya and from Nigeria, but then they were also collecting data from all over the world. But they were the ones who trained the initial data for ChatGPT.
Wow. So were we paid?
Well, the question is, we ethically paid. So yeah, we can get into that, but yeah, they were paid. Were they paid as they were supposed to be paid? Is the other question.
It's the bigger question.
Yeah.
Oh wow, Charles, what?
Yeah, I mean, the question was pretty serious when it came out that basically they were being paid roughly $2 an hour for this, yet somebody doing the same work in the US was being paid $20 an hour. And we can go into all the discussions about that, saying, hold on, no, the cost of living in the US is not the same as this, and there are many arguments left, right, and center, and we won't be able to come to the place where we can say, oh, okay, this is it. I think there are a number of things that both Lucy and Tamir have raised. One, we need to own this in a different way. ChatGPT is out there, Gemini, Anthropic, all these guys are all doing their stuff. DeepSeek, Kimi, GenSpark, Manus, you can name all of them. Everybody's out there. Mistral. But when you look, you ask yourself, is there any that's from Africa? And you come out and say no. Tamira has raised the fact that we have policies that have been written in different nations, but not so many. One of the biggest challenges we have is that we have policies, but we don't have infrastructure. So you can have good policy, but if you don't have good infrastructure to make that policy work, it's just paper. It's just words on a paper. It's not going to be able to really flow. And there's the whole thing that also Lucy raised about the fact that we're users. We need to move from being consumers to being producers. And that's, I think, the biggest discussion in Africa we need to start asking ourselves. And I believe we're already asking ourselves and beginning to say, hold on, we can't continue like this. Yes, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of these are trained using Western ideologies and Western information and this and that, the other. And it may answer a few questions about your culture as an African. But was it trained in your mother tongue? Was it trained in African languages to be able to understand that? It's not. It's trained mainly in English. So it becomes an issue of losing out on a lot of things. So there are many questions that we as a people in Africa need to sit down and ask ourselves, hold on, are we always going to be the people who are running behind? And don't forget that all this AI is running on compute, on minerals that have been dug in Africa, go to the rest of the world. They make the compute, the GPUs that are needed to run all this. And we're not sitting at the table where we're meant to be having all this done. And it's a pretty expensive affair. Tamiro spoke about DeepSeek. DeepSeek came out. When it came out, everybody was shocked how cheap it was. The money they spent, I think it was like $5 million US, and everybody wondered, how did they do that? But OpenAI and all these guys, Anthropic, all say, no, they stole our data and used it to train and all that. That argument is out there. But at the end of the day, who in Africa has got at least 5 million to be able to train an African AI? Give us those kind of people and we make our own African AI, and we can start dealing with some of the challenges in Africa and answer some of the problems in an African way, not with the lens of somebody else.
You raise, wow, okay. And I'll have Tamiru answer that question. But there's something you said in your response, which is it's trained on the English language. So we don't have our local languages. There's no AI model with our local languages. Is that what am I getting you right?
We don't have ChatGPT is not, and Gemini and Claude and DeepSeek, they're not trained on Kiswahili. Catherine, you and Lucy, you're from the same tribe. Is there a GPT that speaks to your mother tongue? No, it's trained in English, and you know very well that for you, when you are brought up hearing your mother tongue. English is another thing. So sometimes when you're constructing a sentence, you're constructing it in your mother tongue, in your L1. And then because of it comes out and you're there confusing different things. What if you had an AI that's constructed at your L1 language? For Africa, if we need something that's constructed at our L1, we will be dealing with challenges at our level. We're not having to first look at a lens. I need to see. So if I remove this, I'll still see you. But I will see you differently without this. And that's the thing that we in Africa need to be able to sit up and say, hold on, let's create something that is us, for us, by us.
Okay. Tamiru, I want you to first speak to that. Does that look or sound like an opportunity for the continent? And if so, why hasn't anybody run after it? If it's really that important, not to discredit what Charles has said, but
yes.
Why hasn't somebody just taken that opportunity and ran with it and done what needs to be done in that space? Tamiru.
Yeah, yeah, interesting point raised by both Charles and Lucy. And, I would raise a couple of points. When it comes to culture, language, in Ethiopia, we have several language. Now, Gemini is being very good in some of our language, but what is my expectation, do I need the model to be trained on Swahili or some local language, or beyond the language, what is the tone in the response when we ask ChatGPT? We all have our language. Language is a way of communication, but as a nation, we all have our own tradition, what we call it ethical, not ethical, what is right, what's not right, normal way of living, But if the model is heavily trained using data gathered from the West, where their way of thinking, their way of system, their way of lifestyle, what it understands, everything is based on that, But if we try to accommodate as many data trainer, or what we call them data annotation, if we are able to engage as many diverse people in a way, we are bringing that global perspective into those frontier models. So in that regard, I will consider that as a positive, even though ChatGPT didn't intentionally train on Amharic. But if someone from Ethiopian or Kenya or Uganda, Rwanda culture has been involved in the data annotation process, in the data labeling process, all that individual naming, those semantic will make it to the model, which make it very much pragmatic. In that case, I'm happy with that. The challenge is, from some of the documentaries when Africans were hired by some of the data companies who are supplying this trained data set to big tech, they are not only paying less, but they are asked or tasked to label some of psychologically difficult image, and something that will continue to them beyond that immediate naming or labeling exercise. That was traumatic experience that was got a lot of attention from media and poor labor handling process. But the payment is a different thing. The culture is a different thing. But being able to accommodate this global talent in training the data has a positive thing. But how you handle it is maybe that is a sensitive part, and that lead a lot of psychological trauma for many beyond being able to have a good model that works for us. But before I finish this, I wanted to add on the race. It's not like the whole Africas are on the same page, or as I mentioned, Lucy also raised a good point. We have to implement the strategy. Yes, sometimes we are constrained by the infrastructure, the regulations, the talent, so many aspects. Lack of risk capital is not there. Patient capital is not there for such technological innovation. But some countries usually pop up in this endeavor, like Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, with its own matured system. Many of the global tech have data region in South Africa, and even Nigeria and Kenya also have some good presence of these international companies that may tell something about the digital and the overall ecosystem in that regard. And even Rwanda and Kenya has also doing magnificent progress. Rwanda assume they have the AI Institute that will consider as the AI hub of Africa. Even when it comes to Ethiopia, we have AI Institute where many from Africa come to visit, to learn, and to share experiences. Ethiopia is also taking a pioneer lead in the AI initiative in a number of regards. Recently, our Prime Minister has been appointed as AU Champion of AI for Africa Union. So typically, the Africa Union has recognized Ethiopia's effort in pushing toward AI effort. So there are a lot of progress through Africa in a number of regards to catch up with the AI race. But how we are handling the strategy to translating to the reality and making it fair, and at the same time, as Charles said, how we are able to address, to produce these models for our internal purpose. Because there is also an opportunity side of it, there is also a threat side of it. I hope Charles will say a lot about that aspect as well, from the cybersecurity and detail aspect, and I will back on for the other discussion. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Tamiru. Before we go to Charles, Lucy, I still want to come back to what you spoke about during the training phase. Lots of Kenyans and Nigerians, and of course others, but it is known that Kenyans and Nigerians were used during that training phase for ChatGPT. And so that segues us to, the workplace. So somebody watching this, whether they watch it now as it's happening or later on, and it's of interest to them, or this is a path they want to pursue, for young Africans, what are the skills they should be prioritizing today in order to be relevant in this AI space?
That's a very good question, especially because sometimes, depending on who you ask, and recently I was in a conversation with someone who played a role in when the internet was coming into Africa, right? And according to them, they do not think AI will replace jobs, right? But I think globally, we've seen AI replacing jobs because it's making some things efficient, right? However, I think one thing that I always say and I make very clear is AI can replace some things, but it can't replace critical thinking. It can't replace judgment, right? It can't replace communication. And I'm sure no matter how good all our prompts are, every once in a while we have to tweak the output of the prompt we get from AI. So I think number one is just the soft skills, right? We really need to build, how do we think, how do you frame problems from a first principles point of view? And maybe how I'm saying it looks complicated, but just basically you have to understand your context to be able to even use AI tools, right? So not all of us, personally, I'm not an engineer, I cannot code. Do I think AI will replace me? No. But I know AI will make me more efficient, but not replace me. So I think it's just the small skills that we have to keep building upon: critical thinking, judgment. Does the output reflect the actual situation? And that's why I, in my personal opinion, will always have a human in the loop, right? Regardless of how advanced the models are, we'll always need humans in the loop. So I think the question is also, can you be the human in the loop, and what does it take? It just takes the soft skills. Can you communicate? Can you understand local contexts? Can you understand like industry contexts as well, in the various industries we are working with? And also, are you someone who people can work with, right? So just those soft skills is one of the key things. The other one is the AI. I don't want to say AI engineering, because at the end of it all, not everyone will be an AI engineer. I know Charles is in the cybersec space. There's also demand there, but I think it's in AI fluency. Basically, how can we all have that understanding of first what AI is? How do you prompt AI? And how can we use AI to solve problems? So I'll just say that AI fluency and AI literacy, and also just trying to understand different use cases of AI around the world. And great, there are people who will be engineers and machine learning engineers, but in the tech space, we all know that AI will quickly replace people in the tech space more than any other industry, right? But how can we create that AI literacy, AI fluency, just trying to understand how AI works and how we can use it to be efficient, to automate our lives at work, personally, etc., and also solve the problems that we have in Africa. And I don't think we all need to be AI engineers to do that.
Okay, so let me just speak again from something you've said earlier on, that you've met people who said it will not take our job. So like, it kind of sounds like it's something for them and not for us.
So, and this is like very divided, right?
Mm.
Um, the whole buzz, and if you speak to a lot of people right now, and I think more so at the beginning, where everyone was like, oh, AI will take our jobs. How do we get more involved in AI? How do we transition to tech, etc., right? And then you have the camp where AI will quickly replace software engineers more than any other careers in the world, right? Then you have the people who, and this is what I was referring to, the people who are there when the internet came into play, right? And they saw the evolution of pre-internet, distribution of internet, and post-internet, right? And according to them, they believe it will not, like the dramatic shift that everyone expects, that all our jobs will be replaced by AI, will not necessarily happen the way we think, right? AI will not replace jobs, but it will create more opportunities for more work, right? But AI will replace some skills. Yeah. I hope
Okay.
that answers your question. And then, and I know like maybe this will come up later in the conversation, is AI is also expensive, right? So even
Yeah.
in companies where you're thinking, oh, we want to use AI to be efficient, I think like OpenAI, their projection is to spend like close to $600 billion in just infrastructure, in AI infrastructure by like 2030. That's like 6 times Kenya's GDP. So if you even think about it, right? Even in companies, like not all companies can afford like a pro AI
Mhm.
tool for everyone in the company. And even us, like in my company, we use AI, but your tokens quickly run out and you have to wait until 6 p.m. before you can reset your tokens. So you also have to figure out
Yeah.
how do you take everything to AI, or for some things do you also just do the work and save your tokens for when you really need it.
Need them.
Yeah.
So Charles, when
Yes.
Lucy says it's expensive, what are we looking at? What does that look like from a business standpoint?
This is not cheap. Like we said at the beginning, DeepSeek came up and said they spent like $5 million, and everybody's like, huh? How? Um, Yet the Anthropics and OpenAI are all at the hundreds of millions in spending to get to ChatGPT, to getting Claude, to getting Gemini. The computational power, the GPU, just one is about 25,000 US dollars. We're not known to have many of those in Africa. In fact, most of the work we do when we're doing any work with AI, we're using AWS, Google, GCP, or we're using Microsoft to compute. So basically, we're paying some US company, they're getting our money, and we're creating using them. So it becomes a very expensive affair. And if, for example, you have a company with 100 people, and then you're using Microsoft, and then you say you're going to use their Microsoft Copilot, that license is very expensive, very, very expensive. So it becomes an issue, and you find, like what Lucy has said, the token because you're not doing a lot of things, and people are left in some very interesting spaces. So you find another thing happening, and this is cybersecurity concern. It's a risk issue. Companies now need to sit down and decide what's our risk appetite when it comes to using AI. What are we going to allow employees to do and not to do? So we find now in spaces in AI, we're finding with AI, you're finding that in many companies, you find somebody's going to use ChatGPT, and then they throw a confidential document on it. They're using DeepSeek, they're using Gemini, and maybe the companies only wants you to use Copilot, but because you didn't get a license in Copilot because you're not deemed to be in an area that needs Copilot, or the licenses were not enough for everybody. So in my example of 100 licenses, then company decides only 20 people are going to get. What are the other 80 going to do? they're going to go taking information into everybody else. So before long, you find that we've got something we call a shadow AI environment in your company. And that just magnifies the risk. That just means that somebody's using somebody else to type your letter, and the information, your confidential information, is now going out, because the AI is learning also from what you're writing. So if on giving it a confidential tender or deal or contract that you're between company A and company B, and then you've gone and thrown it in there to something that is not specifically for your company, it becomes an issue. So the expense that we have is unbelievable. Apart from that, and I like something Lucy said, we need to be fluent in using AI. Learning to use it, the expense may not be in terms of our local currencies, but the time it takes to be able to write a good prompt is not 2 minutes. It's given to you and you suddenly start playing games with it. No, you need to take the time to develop that skill set. You need to be able to be willing to say, this is it. And there are many free courses out there to help you to write a good prompt so that you can become fluent in AI. And I think that's one of the biggest things that, and I totally agree with Lucy, we need to become fluent in using it, because the person in a company who is going to most likely be at risk of losing a job is the one who does not understand this new tool that has come. How can I use it to enhance what I am doing? If you're not going to be willing to learn, then you're putting yourself at risk of being left. In the 1940s, during World War II, many people were working in factories. Most of the jobs were in the factories. People are manufacturing everything. But what has gone on happening within many industries, I mean, I grew up in Kenya. We had many factories, but now we see in Kenya, the service industry is big time. Jobs will change, roles will change, people will evolve. If you maintain your soft skills, just like Lucy had said, if you keep yourself abreast by making sure that you're learning and being relevant to this day and age, you're not thinking, oh, this thing has come, I'm gone. You put yourself in a very bad place. I like looking at life this way. Life, a glass is either half full or half empty. And I encourage everybody in this age of AI, don't look at it as half empty and think you're gone. No, look at it as half full and start seeing the possibilities that you can use to be able to change your environment, to be able to change your society, to be one who's able to say, hold on, we can use this for good. Is it expensive for companies? Yes. But as more and more people start using it, as we come up with bigger ideas, it becomes cheaper. Kenya, when M-Pesa began, it was revolutionary. And I think that's what Africa needs. It needs like an M-Pesa moment for AI that will then change the whole dynamic and translate the costs and translate everything and everyday use for everybody.
So if I may just ask, just tying everything together. When it comes to the work, yes, Tamiru, you have what? You want to comment on something, or let me ask,
yes.
And then you can add in your.
Yes, I have a comment. At the same time, I have a question for Lucy, specifically what's happening on the ground in Kenya. So I like how Charles put it about this half empty, half full kind of perspective when it comes to AI. Usually, in my encounters here and digitally, I usually see people who are so passionate about AI. Some of them who embedded AI in their process, some of them who are AI natives, and some of them, they just use AI to assist them with something. For your surprise, I see a number of people who are suspicious about AI for one or other reason. So, especially in Africa, when we talk about AI, it is very critical that we put that perspective, the tone, the messaging, the branding that we put out there about AI significantly matters. If you say AI is replacing jobs, everybody is going to be resistant to AI, you know. And if you say AI is impacting software engineers more than any other professionals, that may be true in the short term, but is that the case? You know, just to give you some context from recent data I read, by 2030, more than 90 million jobs will be displaced or lost for AI. But during this same period, 172 million jobs will be created by 2030. This is a study by a major educational institution. So we cannot 100% believe everything in the fact because it's a forecast, but the messaging from here is AI in the long term may be a net addition to the society than it displaces, you know. I wanted to mention only both the opportunity and the risk side of it together so that those handle or attract or tackle the opportunities while being cognizant to the potential impact around it, you know. When it comes to technology, you know, previously a typical development process have someone in any development company, in any technology company, producing a solution or service. They have a person with a product vision and a designer and someone to put that assurance team will do the test and everything. So what AI has significantly changed in practice was those development process, the coding process was extensive. And it was the one where we had a lot of back and forth with issues, with a lot of bugs to fix, something like that. But AI now, because it democratizes knowledge, it democratizes code, because code is now free as long as we are able to afford the token price. So the whole development process will be changed. Companies has to change.
I think we are losing you a bit there, Tamiru. Tamiru, I think you're a bit frozen there. I think, okay, his question was to both you, Lucy and Charles. So maybe Lucy,
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
You are frozen, now you're back. You wanna just continue with that a bit?
Yes, let me head to the question. So I'm glad Lucy and Charles also raised about AI fluency. You know, as I mentioned, I want to take one initiative from Ethiopia, whereby our government has issued 5 million coders program with the support of United Arab Emirates, whereby 5 million people have free access to online basic programming skills, you know. So I was on another interview locally, and what I was suggesting was, you know, yes, at some point, that was a big initiative. Everybody wants to have that basic fundamental programming language, coding language. But now, with all these code assist tools, coding is no more that critical, or it's accessible as long as we are able to pay the token fee. So what Lucy has raised is a very important point. We have to focus on judgment, critical skill, communication, articulation, and those people who can able to orchestrate AI with the right vision, with the right ask, they are able to do that with the AI tool. So I wanted to ask Lucy, because she's involved with the woman tech in Kenya, what are they doing locally to build the technical community in getting this soft skill? She said soft skill, that's important. But if there is anything experience sharing that may be helpful that you guys are doing actually to instill such kind of knowledge, it would be good to know from your perspective. Thank you.
Thanks for that question. And I think that's a very good perspective, especially, and I'm really passionate about women and young girls in general. And because I see if we are left out of this, then we are left out completely, right? So some of the things that we are doing, and this is with or without the AI boom, is just trying to help people build their soft skills within our community, having forums, webinars, bringing in speakers who talk about this, who talk about branding, who talk about communication, who talk about just corporate dynamics, stuff really that isn't outrightly taught in school, but also creating a mentorship program, especially for the young ones who are just recently graduating, and matching them with professionals, whether you're 2 to 3 years in your career and you want to just help another young girl, just matching them up to see how you can be able to guide them and also build them. But the other thing I'll also say, when it comes to like talent, we are still, it's not like we're at the same level as the more developed countries, right? So as much as we are developing soft skills, we still need more women in cloud, more women in cybersecurity, more women as data analysts, right? So what we are really trying to do is work with organizations that are offering like such courses and giving the young women and girls like scholarships, and the uptake has been really, really good. And I can really see that the drive is there in the young women. So again, how do we balance so that we are not having too many women being overtrained and they're not getting jobs, right? So, and that's still my biggest conundrum of how do we create now pathways for them? Because you can do 5 courses in 1 month, but if you don't have a pathway as to where this course is getting you to, it's almost pointless. So we have to balance both.
Okay. So, and I hear you. So it's one thing to train in something and then wait the opportunity to execute what you have trained for. And that's maybe one of the things we lack in here, and that becomes another whole conversation on the job market, etc. It's not just AI specific. And I thank you for that. Tamiru, 5 million people, sponsored by your government to go for training. I think that's amazing. Is there anything like that happening here, Lucy? I haven't come across.
No, by the government, no.
Yeah.
I think pockets of individuals collectively, but I don't even think it will get to like 5 million. But yeah, that's impressive from the Ethiopian government. Yeah.
Well done. You make us look good. You make the continent look good. Before we go to Charles answering, let me just acknowledge some comments. We have Kisti here saying, watching from Uganda. Good job, Catherine. Welcome, panelists. We have Joe Dropping Entertainment. Awesome. Great to be here on this conversation. Locked in from Bahrain. Then we have Polycarp watching from Bungoma. Polycarp and I are doing something next week. I'll let the audience know what that is, the next live stream. Then we have Crispus is asking, how can we create AI and machine learning system and understand Africa as opposed to what we have now that is Western world based? Did someone touch on that? I think Tamiru and Charles. Did you? Charles, you want to take that?
Money, money, money. Money, money. It's going to take money, my friend. Christmas, it's going to take money. As long as we have money and we can get the GPUs and get all the training and we come up with all the fresh ideas. And that's why I give the idea of M-Pesa. M-Pesa came from nowhere. I mean, Africa didn't have a way of paying. The rest of the world would pay by card. And then Africa came up with this mobile money thing and blew the world apart with that. So we just need some ideas. But yes, if we're to go the way that they've gone making OpenAI or DeepSeek, it's money. DeepSeek, they said they used about $5 million US. So if somebody has that, and it's not just that, but then we also need the compute. If we can get NVIDIA's GPUs H100s and to be able to run and to train the models and this, then that will be it. But that needs a lot of things. It needs good infrastructure. One of the biggest challenges Africa has is infrastructure. We've got good policies, but we don't have great infrastructure. We need electricity I mean, electricity that is flowing, not start, stop whenever, I don't know, there's a storm, there's a flood. With AI, a training place, it needs consistent and constant. And another thing it needs is water. Every time I see Nairobi, it's flooded. I'm just thinking, if this was an AI center nearby and we're getting all that water, would be training a lot of things instead of us swimming in that water. So so we need there are a lot of things. It's not just money. We need electricity that is good. We need to have a lot of water, because a data center needs to be cooled, and cooling a data center is not a simple thing. Okay, we may say we have geothermal in Kenya. We may say we can use solar in different parts of the world, in a lot of Africa, but where is it? So once that infrastructure is set, if somebody can come set up good infrastructure, we set up and we have good water catchment systems and everything running, then our data centers will be able to flow and we can train. Money, 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 plus good weather.
Okay.
And maybe can I add on that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Charles put our constraints very explicitly. But from some practical perspective as well, when you have some real challenge like what we have in Africa, some people come up with a very good strategy to work around it, to solve it. And one interesting perspective, I was impressed, or actually it was my aha moment when I learned about it, was few months ago. Globally, all these tech companies, businesses, normal startups, they have their own internal development process and their own software development codes. They save it in GitHub. So GitHub is like the repository of global code. So in the same manner, globally now we are all talking about the models that we are familiar with: ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Grok, or Perplexity, DeepSeek, Gwen, something like that. But on this platform, which is called Hugging Face, it is a repository of models.
Yes.
And if the last time I checked, there were 2 million models. So it's not like people are totally relying on these 10, 12, 15 popular frontier models, because they are expensive. We're generous. Actually, they are generous. The free version, it gives us a lot. Actually, I tried one free version custom app development tool last month. It gives me 1,000 credit for a month. And as soon as I run 2 query, I almost finish my whole monthly budget, So it's expensive, but the frontier models are there. But this custom model, that the 2 million on Hugging Face, they are niche based, they are specific, most of them open source. Even Google and NVIDIA have also their models in that platform. So what tells you is, even though we are not in a situation to bring all these popular models, there are some custom models that we can bring locally, offline, that works for our specific niche, So in the future, a lot may be changed. Yes, as Charles said, we have to build our infrastructure, our own model, our own data system, our own chips. That is a long term. But in the meantime, there are a lot of workarounds that we can leverage using these open models that are available for the world for free.
I mean, even talking about the free models that you're talking about on Hugging Face, Apple has for a long time had a very locked scenario, and people have been able to walk around and been able now. Where actually a few weeks ago I was downloading an uncensored Gwen model on my phone, so that I could play around with it and just look to see what exactly can we do with this. So the opportunities are there, and I think one thing I'll throw this in the spanner is we have quantum computing coming in, which is definitely going to speed things to a different level with AI. And it's my hope that Africa is not going to be left, but Africa is going to be right at the forefront of that conversation, because that would now be a different thing altogether from where we are. And with people now beginning to think maybe by 2030 we'll be at that quantum computing, AI will be much quicker than what it is right now.
Okay. Let me keep reading the comments so that we can at least just take care of that before moving on. Annette says, AI is an important and timely topic. Thank you, Catherine, and the panelists for an engaging discussion. Thank you, Annette. Your dropping comes back to say, let's see, I'm loving the conversation. I'll give this to Lucy to answer. How can I use it to enhance my speaking skills with regard to the fact that we have virtual AIs that are teaching? Where does that leave me in future as a speaker? Oh,
that's very interesting. Especially, I don't know if everyone here is a doom scroller, but yeah, I'm a doom scroller. So every once in a while, you'll hear like even like old classics on TikTok, and you'll be like, "Oh, is that AI?" And yesterday, I was actually having a discussion with a couple of friends over dinner as to where are copyright laws if a song is created using AI. And even like someone who's like in their 50s was like, they love the new AI soul, right? Music, right? So it's a very interesting topic. I think my thing is, if you want to be a speaker, AI is teaching, right? But AI will not fully replace you as a speaker, right? So I think the question to yourself would be, how do you use AI to enhance your speaking abilities, to enhance maybe even how you put out your content? Because we are at a point where you can't, it's not do or don't, right? It's now part of our existence. It's you either use it or someone else will release something using AI. So I think it's just how can you use AI to enhance whatever you already are working on, and then also how can you even test out, maybe use your own custom your own way of AI teaching or like AI speaking, right? So we have to coexist with it. It's not anymore that it's either you coexist with it or we'll have AI speakers, right? But will they fully replace human speakers? No, right? So it's how do you use it to your advantage as well.
Okay, so her question was, where does that leave me in future as a speaker?
Use AI as a speaker, like just use AI, like use AI as a speaker, or even just see creative ways that you can use AI to also teach, to also speak, right? How can you integrate it to make your speaking maybe cool or have like more enhanced features or translate into different languages to extend like your reach? It's just basically how do you use it to enhance whatever you want to do, right? And yeah, how do you use it to also like make short form content and release it to the internet without you doing anything, right? So it's just how do you use it to enhance your speaking? How do you use it to enhance? Yes, there'll be AI speakers, and I'm sure like China and them already have like AI speakers, right? But have they fully replaced humans? No. But are humans using them to their advantage? Yes.
Okay.
I think for anyone who's going to use AI, use it. Don't see AI as a full stop in your life. See it as a comma, and continue writing the sentence of your life. Don't allow it to be the full stop. Write the sentence and let it become an exclamation mark that we all look and we're saying, "Wow!" Don't give up. It's there, fine. Then maybe pivot yourself as a niche, as one who is not AI, because some people still want to see the human being. We still want to touch that person who's got blood flowing. So don't see as AI as taking you out. No, put yourself beside there and use AI to enhance even what you're speaking. Make sure that when you're speaking and everything, you see how AI can help you develop your own speaking skills. Like you've said, don't give up, press on, fly higher.
I like that. I absolutely love it. Wow, those are quotable quotes. I'm hoping Jacob, our producer, has written them down somewhere. They'll form our captions for next week. Let me read the other comment.
AI can help you pick them out. Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So, Kirsty here says, I'm using ChatGPT to create. By the way, are these comments? Can you guys see these comments as well?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So I'm just reading this as the last one. Then you're all just gonna pick one and read. Okay. So Kirsty says, I'm using ChatGPT to create flyers for my companies, and I don't pay designers anymore. Okay, girl, which is a big load off my shoulder. I think she was just that comment came on the back of what Lucy said. What did Lucy say? I know I saw it come up, but when you were speaking.
Yeah, I think I was just talking about like AI fluency. Like this is a classic example of, and I think we all do it, right? Right now, like you need to make a PowerPoint presentation. If you needed an analyst for that, you can use AI for that. So basically it's how is AI helping us be more efficient? And I like Charles because he has this calm old way of giving advice, like use it as a comma and not a full stop. But yeah, just basically how are you using it? If you're a business owner, just think about, if Steve is a business owner, how this has just like made his process like way easier. You don't have to hire a graphic designer. Now probably there's a graphic designer wondering, will I be rendered jobless? Yes, you'll be rendered jobless if you don't start using AI. Or if you're not thinking about how to create maybe AI templates for business owners, right? You'll be rendered jobless. So I think it's just, you have to keep evolving as it evolves, right? It's not going anywhere. We all see the benefits of the internet in our day-to-day lives, but how can it help us be more efficient? How can it help us just think beyond, right? Because what you would have spent 3 hours doing, if you need 1 hour, so what else can you do with the extra 2 hours you have, right?
Yeah.
I know a designer who did something very interesting, who said, if I was taking 1 week to develop a website, with AI, it helped me do this in less than a day. What did that end up happening for me? The guy decided, then that means I now can go for very many customers all at the same time, all running in this thing, and I'm spending the money. And the guy took one of the top tiers of for Claude to be able to do this, and got the returns. So don't think that oh, it's taken my job. No, ask yourself, and that's the thing Lucy is saying. Ask yourself how you can use it for your good.
Okay.
Maybe if I can chip in here.
Chip in and also figure out which of the comments you want to respond to.
Yeah, for me, I have this, and actually, I have also another one that I pick very interesting. You know, with what Steve mentioned with the flyer. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear
you.
Can you
hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Okay. You know, last week, I finished one interesting custom app, and at the end of
we've lost you a bit
AI,
there.
I ask my AI companion every time I finish one project. I ask my AI companion a question. This typical project before AI, how many team would be involved to finish this? How many time will it take to finish this? And what is the budget? You know?
Wait. AI companion. My ears just went. Did anyone see my ears just go?
Actually, you know, with the companion thing, the last year, I have to confess, that I spent more time with my AI companions than ordinary people for a number of reasons. If you want the fact.
You need to know how to build an AI companion, but anyway, you will let us know. Keep going.
Yeah. So at the end of the project, I ask how many project and how many team and how many time, and I'm always impressed. This project, it requires at least 5%. It will take 2 weeks, and it will take $25,000 to $40,000. And I know how much
Are you there? Are you still with us?
I think his internet has a lag.
It must be a net.
But as we wait for him to come back up, I want to pick a question from Annette, right? Okay. So Annette says, many young people believe AI can answer everything. Therefore, they're less motivated to study. How do we encourage them to pursue education and skills development with AI in place? And it's a very interesting question because, and I wanted to ask Mr. Tamir if he doesn't mind asking, like, we are all like not young in this panel, right? Like we're not young in this panel.
For yourself. Speak for yourself. Forever young.
Yeah, we're forever young at heart, but we're not young. And like every time Mr. Tamiru is speaking, I'm just like, he is so invested in learning this new thing. He's invested in building stuff. He's always talking about building companions. Charles, the same, is just invested in how do I learn more about this thing.
Yeah.
And we have this thing at Women in Tech Kenya where we call it a Kujituma challenge, like just send yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I think my very simple answer to Annette is no one is coming to save you, right? You just have to have the interest and the curiosity, basically, right? And we've seen a lot of people do amazing things, even just from learning from YouTube, right? Just watching YouTube courses and learn so much more, right? So if you do not, yes, we can encourage people, but I think we're past the day and age, especially unless it's areas where people are still facing social, cultural norms that affect how they approach their day-to-day life and how they think, etc. I think we all have to have that innate curiosity. There's something new, and they're very even short form podcasts, 15-minute podcasts. There's something very new every day in the AI world. So it's either you keep up or you're left behind. So I know that's a very hardcore way to answer this question, but I think we can no longer wait for people to come and sing to our faces, or here are AI courses that you can study, or here are things that you can do in AI, especially because it's very new and everyone is learning every day. People have to have that knowledge that this is going to happen, and do you want to be a part of it or do you want to be left behind? And then the choice is yours, but you really have to make individual efforts and even ask people, just reach out. There are Reddit groups, just see what are people curious about, but we have to remain curious, and then we have to keep planning.
Yeah, I like that. Tamir, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry, at least you understand the problem, right? It's good to be in
no,
Africa,
the government has invested money for 5 million people. Okay, we don't understand the
problem. Let me just add something to what Lucy is saying there to Annette. We'll go back to where Tamira is. Just quickly want to add something.
Sure.
If you sit down with the attitude, this AI knows everything, you're allowing it to drive instead of you sitting down and thinking, I need to be the driver. And in this life, you're either being driven or there's someone that is driving. I would encourage anybody, whatever you can do to learn, wherever you can go, learn, do whatever you can do, learn. Lucy has mentioned YouTube, Reddit, podcasts. There's so much knowledge. out there. They say that the knowledge base is doubling every few years, every 2 years now, even quicker now with AI and everything else. It's doubling so fast. So it's so much information. We're living in an information age. If you're not going to spend time to learn, you will discover that you've been left behind in life. And you're the one who will constantly be complaining that, oh, what do I do? What do I do? No, you decide now, you know what? I'm going to learn. I'm going to be a driver of this thing. This thing is not going to drive me away. I'm going to be one who's right at the forefront of it, leading change and bringing about a new world, which is what it's bringing about.
I hear you. Thanks for that. And you'll answer the question I've seen coming from Susan. Charles, after we are done with this, you'll answer Susan's question. Tamiru, could you just now go to your entire point?
Yes. Yeah, it's all coming back to that flyer design that she was able to do, and she avoids the payment she do for the graphic designers, But the thing is, sometimes even some big tech leaders say when they lay off people, they could have think differently, Yes, AI created efficiency. Now we are able to do a lot with fewer staff, but companies, instead of letting go of people, they can still use them for other projects. The thing is, many companies were not be prepared like that, especially in terms of project, in terms of others. Just the example I mentioned, if you have a development team of 10 who have been following some formal process to deliver on a project, but if one person in a matter of days can come up with a good custom app, you can tell what does that mean for the overall development process, So I see this is going to be a game changer, but I see a lot of possibility in this regard as well, Lucy mentioned earlier, software developers will be impacted earlier. But one interesting point I would raise is, previously, especially in Africa, we don't have a lot of large-scale infrastructure or information system project because, one, we don't have the talent, they are expensive, and they take forever. And even after the project is ended, it may not be working. We have to deal with that. So the overall system development or digital transformation undertaking has been expensive. But now, what it means is, with all these, what they call citizen developers, they are not a typical software developers, but they are able to build product using AI, So all these citizen developers and other developers are well positioned, and they are empowered with a small team to take on and tackle large project, which means is, even though the technology project, the number of team required at one company is reduced, the overall information technology project will be accessible because we have better tool, code is accessible, and teams are empowered. That for Africa is a big thing because we are able to, most of our process, our business process. I was talking to people a lot. It's not unique to Ethiopia, I'm sure. Mostly in Africa, even though businesses have some CRM, some ERP, and some other tools, businesses are carried out using WhatsApp, Telegram, and other messaging platform. Most of the actual conversation, important business conversation, which are needed for institutional knowledge, they are hidden in people personal phone. So I think that is going to be a big barrier for Africa in our AI journey, because whatever we do with our data is what we are going to populate to AI. If we don't have data, we can't leverage our data, So it is going to be a bigger challenge and opportunity that I see with this enablement as a citizen developer. Maybe the other point I want to raise, and I will pose a question for you guys, is I forgot the name. Let me see if it is there. I think it is Annette raised good point that some people are no longer showing interest or motivation to study because now AI can answer or can help address most of it, So I want to say my point here, and I really want your reflection on that, because recently on my digital platform, I saw some people taking away their schools from their kids from school, thinking school is not ready to catch up with the AI world. I have a little girl who is in pre-KG, and when I think about her and with how AI is going, I am sure I will not wait for another 18, 20 years for her to finish her education, to start her journey. So I see there is going to be a better way. I strongly believe education will be disrupted in a number of matters. And to the extent, let alone 20 years of finishing all school, college, some people are starting to hesitate. Even going to college may not be worth it because 4 years, a lot will change with AI. So shall I better catch up with AI, or shall I locked in education and see what is coming out at the end of the education? So I'm a little bit that education will be disrupted in a number of ways, but ultimately the purpose of education is to make people civilized, to make people aware, conscious. That will be realized with AI in a faster time than what the normal education is taking. I can tell from myself that the last year I learned a lot than even if I go to another PhD school. I feel like that. So I have this impression. So I wanted to know what is your impression, because it's a legitimate comment I saw from Annette. How can we balance between AI and education so that we still have the motivation to pursue formal education?
Actually, Lucy already touched on that question when we had lost you for a minute or two. And Lucy, just want to just sum that up, including the part where he's been using companions.
Yeah. So first, Mr. Tamiru, I think I really acknowledged you because despite having started your career early, you still like have the interest to learn about AI, to use AI in your day-to-day life. And it's been clear from like the conversation how every day you're trying to figure out like how to use AI or how to build using AI. And I think my answer to Annette, though you brought in a perspective right now about our education systems evolving the same as AI. And I think this is a challenge that we really have in the African context, especially the earlier like pre-university, it's fine because you're still getting the basics. But when we get to university, we're like, they're still using curriculums that were developed 10 years ago. Our teachers still haven't done like further upskilling from when they started like teaching etc. And I think that's just like a different conversation for another day. But like, and I think the point there is our education system teaching using
yeah.
Oh, I was lost.
Yeah, just for like
okay
2 seconds.
Yeah, if our teachers are still using the old way of teaching and students on the other hand are doing everything using AI, including studying, summarizing notes, translating stuff, then there'll be a big, and there is already a big disconnect, right? But I think my advice to Annette, and it's an advice to all young people, is, and I think Charles also mentioned this, it's either it drives you or you drive it, right? And all of us are learning. I don't think anyone has fully figured out, even the Sam Altmans of the world, they haven't fully figured out AI to its full extent, right? And it's evolving. So we have to have the innate curiosity and to also just keep learning in order to develop our skills. And even the skills that we're developing today in AI, they might be outdated in the next few years, right? Even next year. But how do we keep just reapplying ourselves, just learning and also staying curious with all the information that we have available in the internet?
I like what you said. And Charles, you're coming in to handle Susan's question. I want to acknowledge some comments here. Life in One says, amazing conversation here. So thank you to the panel. And Chris Chen from China, thank you for watching. I'm hoping you haven't jumped anybody who's placed a comment. Oh yeah, there's someone singing a song. That one is for Charles, because anyway, that comment has also mentioned Charles. So Charles, start with the song and then you go to Susan's comment.
Joe dropping, that song is actually sung by ABBA. Money, money, money. And the question you're asking is, where is that money? Where do we get that money? And actually, even that song with ABBA was actually about the fact that, yeah, we need that money. And it's the biggest thing. The challenge you and I have in Africa is, if we're going to build a sovereign AI that is just dealing with Africa, that has got our data sovereignty, we need the money to come from ourselves. Because if we're going to rely on somebody else from outside, they're going to have an interest. So it's we ourselves to come in with what we need, to come with what we have, and come up with solutions. And like Tamiro said, there are solutions that can come out unexpectedly. So I may be bringing the fact that right now, to create ChatGPT, they spent at least 100 million US dollars. What if somebody in Africa gets an idea that doesn't even use 1 million and comes up with something? The same way we came up, I referred to M-Pesa earlier on. The same way M-Pesa changed and has changed mobile money in developing nations, and afforded us a way to be able to pay goods and pay services. And the person who didn't have a bank account now has got access to services that are similar, financial services. I believe there is a way we can come together in Africa and create an AI model that's for ourselves, and we are able to use it, and we can be able to export it to the world. Let me throw something into this here. With the way geopolitics have gone, we are seeing now countries like in Europe saying we don't use anything that's US based, we don't use anything that's Chinese based. They're developing themselves. What if somebody in Africa grew up and we said, you know what, we're going to provide all of you with something that is just us based. If you want to switch off Claude, switch off, but you still have something that can work, because this is what it is. You want to switch off DeepSeek, you want to switch off ChatGPT, but you have something that works, that is as good as those models, that or even better, and can be able to flow. That's the challenge, one of the challenges we have. The money, I believe we as Africans need to be able, if we were able to get all the money that is being spent on corruption and we put it into this, I'm sure we would have a lot. Let me not go there, because Africa, we can speak about corruption from here and we will not close the chapter. And especially those who are from Kenya, that becomes a matter for demonstrations. Let me go to
I don't
Susan.
think Ethiopia is exception as well.
Well, I don't think you have the kind of things that we have in Africa. I was in Kenya recently, and I quickly discovered how much demos have changed. Now, when they say there's no transport, no movement, no nothing, you're stuck. But we will come up. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm answering Susan's question because I see like you want my channel to be flagged or something.
I won't.
Yeah.
Let me.
Shall I go to Susan's question?
I want PC to handle it. Then
let me go with it.
Look at Polycarp's question.
Yeah, given all the models we have currently on the market, how can one know what is the right fit? Now, Susan, I'm going to introduce you to something else that is a bit interesting. I use an AI aggregator. I just don't have, well, I can use Claude, I can use ChatGPT, I can use Gemini. I actually have all the apps on my phone and I do access them. But then I discovered a company called Abacus AI, and they're not paying me. I have nothing with them. I just discovered them.
You bring that money. You bring that money.
I discovered them. They're an AI aggregator, and they were cheaper than everybody else. I wondered, what's going on here? And they have basically most of the models. They have from Kimi to Claude to ChatGPT to Perplexity. They have all of them in that place. So it's for you to choose. Now, Perplexity was born to come against Google search. And Perplexity is good when you're doing searches. If you're doing a lot of searches, your Perplexity is good for doing search, and it does it very well. However, the free version doesn't do it as well as the pro version, and the pro version costs money. If you come to Gemini and you have the free version, try and do the research. If you're researching something, click on the options it has. Just don't do the chart. Click on it and do research with it. It will do a thorough research. Claude also is great. And I mean, a lot of people now are moving to Claude away even from ChatGPT, because Claude has been able to really come up and set good guardrails and good work and do presentations. It's now doing presentations with Microsoft Office. Before it wasn't, now it's doing that. So it's coming up very, very well. The key is not the model, because I have friends who are good at using DeepSeek. Another model I can tell you is GenSpark. GenSpark is great at doing a lot of stuff. The key is not the model. The key is the prompt. The question you ask will determine what you get out. So if you're garbage in, garbage out. Please remember that when you're doing anything with AI. Garbage in, you type a garbage prompt, it will give you back garbage. It will just give you AI slop. So you need to make sure you're able to craft your prompt. Don't ask a question. I want to write a content about the weather in Nairobi and how it's going to be between June and July and how it keeps changing and that. No, you need to define yourself. Ask the GPT, ask it to take the position of a professional meteorologist. Ask it to posture itself so it knows I'm a professional meteorologist. I'm not just some Tom, Dick, and Harry, Catherine, Barbara, Jane talking from nowhere. No, now I'm a professional meteorologist, so it knows the information base I'm only going to be looking for is meteorological. It's not going to be asking you from things I don't know. No, it's going to be specific. And you craft your prompt, give it a role, give the right questions, and ask it to criticize itself. In fact, now one of the things I'm learning to do now is to tell it, before you answer, criticize yourself and make sure that if you give me any reference, because I'm also a student, I will ask it to give me a paper where there's a research being done on this. I ask it to verify that that research exists. Before it gives it to me, verify that the research exists. So the question you ask is important. So it's not Gemini, it's not ChatGPT, it's whichever you ask, what question are you asking? And you'll be able to know what exactly. Now, maybe you might come up and say, but Charles, I've heard of these ones that are good for presentation. So there is Gamma AI, which is excellent with presentations. That's brilliant. You may look and say, oh, but Charles, Google has VO that is great for doing videos. And then there's Flow that's great also for doing videos. One is great for doing this. There's Neo Banana that's great for this. All of them are coming out together for different things. Just know what exactly you're looking for. There's Kling, which is also good for videos. There's so many. Hengen, which is also good for creating videos. There are so many out there. You go and try, you see what exactly is the best for you and choose that which is great.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Charles. You've said a couple of things that I'll come to maybe as we are taking our last thoughts, not now. But Tamiru, would you like to answer Polycap?
Yeah, maybe I want to add some points here as well on the right app. Charles put it nicely. He mentioned aggregator, and there is also one app, I'm not endorsing it, Nova, which is aggregator as well. But I'm a little bit biased here because my firm is a partner for Google. So I leverage 90% of Google's tools and resource. When I published my memoir in August, I exclusively used Gemini. But there is one interesting ad that I see that may be relevant here. Have you come across an ad on your social media from Cursive?
Yes.
Yes. Always they say like not ChatGPT for everything. The right tools for the right thing. As we are exposed to many models, we learn over time which worked on what occasion for what scenarios. So I have some unique taste as to where I go to Grok, where I go to ChatGPT, where I go to Copilot, and there are some specifics I go to DeepSeek, but predominantly I am relatively loyal. I stay to Gemini, and I am happy in what I'm getting from Gemini. There is a lot of buzz I see around cloud. I recently got access. Ethiopia didn't have access to cloud until very recently. I have created an account. I haven't yet explored it a lot, but I am happy with Gemini. But the best thing is use the right tool for the right thing, and which tool is the right one from your experience. Someone may have their own experience, but letting yourself exposed a lot of models will give you that perspective. But one thing I learned and I changed my direction the last year is how I engage with the model. Before, Charles also mentioned garbage in, garbage out. If you don't put good prompt, you don't expect good answer. But at the same time, even your question, there were times that all of these big tech like Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, they were publishing prompt guide for prompt engineers, So how we are going to prompt, everybody was sending us that guide. So are we still relying on those guide? Just give them context, output, format, and what do you want, and give it a role. I have stopped following that for prompting guide for a while now. So with the power and dynamism I experienced from the models, most of the time, what I found very helpful is I tell the AI model what I want, the objective, the constraint, and what the output I want. And I make sure that I add one term within each of my prompts. In order to realize my goal or my output, think creatively, all option, and come up with a better option. And I am amazed how the AI go extra mile in bringing so many ways to render that specific request than me telling deliver this and use step A, B, C, So instead of limiting, when we ask a step for AI, we are limiting its creativity, But depending on the case, there are cases where we want specifics. But if we are creating something, if we are building an interface, we are building a custom app, it's better to let the AI creatively come up with a solution and amaze us. That is my best advice.
Without a prompt, or?
No, you give a prompt, but usually, most of the big tech, when the initial prompt guide is always when you ask AI, just tell it you are my marketing manager or you are my peer developer, and I want to build this, and I have this constraint, and build it in a way that is this framework friendly. This is and use a specific approach. Use these steps. You can ask like this, but instead of being so prescriptive in your question, you can make it just tell your objective, the output you want, but you let AI, depending on situation, creatively come up with a specific routes or paths, or it will take the best practice that you never heard of, So I find that very helpful in using AI models.
Lucy, I can hear you typing. Are you typing a prompt? What's going on?
No, I was just,
She's impressed when she's taking my note, I think.
You're working with your AI companion, literally.
Yeah, well, AI companion,
Okay, so who's taking up Polycarp's question? Who owns Africa's data and how the continent ensures its languages, cultures, and realities are represented in global AI? Polycarp also said ChatGPT now speaks Swahili, by the way. Charles. And then Joe Dropping says, great breakdown of the tools, Tamiru. What would you recommend for screenwriting? This Joe Dropping is a screenwriter, creating short films, and a future public speaker. You, Joe Dropping, your question, we shall come to it. Let's handle Polycarp's. We haven't even gone to our own questions. But it's okay. It's good to serve the community in this way. After all, it's all of us are in this anyway. So Polycarp Wekesa's question.
I can pop up on that unless someone wants to take it.
Who owns Africa's data and how can the continent ensure its languages, cultures, and realities are represented in global AI systems? Lucy, you want to go first, then Charles?
Sure. I'm just thinking this question has so many layers because,
Yeah,
first of all,
yeah.
we don't even have data. And then, secondly, we don't have like enough data. We don't have enough data. We are not we're not good store like we don't have also good storage of our languages, cultures, etc. And I think that's like essentially the first step. So number one, I think we say, and I think we've talked about this briefly on how our local languages are not in the GPTs despite us are being the ones who trained the GPTs, right? And even if Swahili is there, I'm sure there's still some, yeah, some work and improvement to be done there. But I think our individual, and I think that's where like really policy comes into play. But I think, and Charles keeps referencing M-Pesa, and I was just thinking M-Pesa did also not wait for like governments to fully take up action, right? So I think we have to use a combination of policy, private sector, education as well, and just start innovating locally. Ideally, we still own our languages, and there's no way we are expecting. And it's just like common sense. We can say we've been left out, but how are we expecting people in San Francisco to create for us languages in our vernacular languages, right? So I think the thing here is we have to build this, and I think I've seen a lot of people trying to build different models in vernacular languages, in different languages. But yeah, we have to first do the work of aggregating our own data, and maybe just even using AI to start gathering our own data. And in order to ensure like our languages, cultures are represented, again, we have to be the builders of this. So we can't sit down, cross our arms, and wait for Google, wait for OpenAI, wait for Claude to build for us our data sets, right? So we have to start being builders. And I think we should ideally see how do builders work with the governments, how do builders work with the private sector to, yeah, start making sure that we are fully represented.
Okay, that's pretty cool. You brought up the government angle, and yes, Charles, you want to take on that because it's a question I've seen on Facebook. I want to read it if I can find it now. So one of my Facebook comments here, we posted that when we started, and this gentleman says the main question should be, this is King Simba. The main question should be, how ready are our governments in adopting AI-driven solutions? I know they may oppose because AI will seal loopholes for corruption. Charles, you want to take that up?
Oh. Um, I can't answer on how willing are they, because I'm not going to. We don't have a qualitative or quantitative survey that has been done to determine. What we know is that at least in Africa, within the AU is leading on data. The AU is making sure that we're having AI policies being formed and being there. The journey has begun. The whole journey, the journey has begun. And once the policies are there, we will get there. Let's not confuse the maturing of democracy and politics and the maturing of AI. These are going to be two different journeys. There'll be a merge. Definitely, they'll come to a place where we will see that our being willing to use is happening. It's not everywhere. I mean, recently certain we saw Claude, Anthropic, not being allowed to get any American contracts because they refused to do certain things that the government wanted. And other people were being given the contracts. So everybody everywhere, and that's the US, everybody everywhere has got a different thing. Facebook went and bought Manus and paid money Just before the money hit the bank accounts of the owners of Manus, Manus was started in China. They then moved from China and moved to Singapore, thinking that the Chinese government would not reach them. The Chinese government has come back and said, no, that deal cannot happen. You have to cancel that deal. And this is it. So whatever little money Facebook had already started paying Manus, it's being moved back. And that is happening. So governments everywhere are taking different positions.
Mm-hmm.
The standards and the way things are going to flow slowly by slowly. As we mature and as the use case comes, we will be able to see how we can be able to use the different technologies. There's a lot. It's not just AI. We have emerging technologies that are coming, whether it's blockchain, whether it's quantum computing. Everything is going to come and change the world that we're living in, and governments definitely are going to look and say, you know what, we need to use this because we can't be able to do this without this.
Okay, thank you for that. Tamiru, you want to take up that question?
Okay. Yeah, I understand the logic behind the question, and it is a fact that many of the technology innovation in Africa has some challenge because some people wanted to avoid a formal system so that it will bring transparency, accountability at the forefront. So from that angle, I can understand the question. But I strongly believe AI is unique in a number of regards. Because does African government have interest in AI? Do they have the demand? You know, in economics 101, demand is the willingness and ability of needing something, right? You need to be willing. At the same time, you have to be willing. So if you ask me, is there willingness? Yes. Ability, a lot of factors constrain it, infrastructure, and a number of regards. But, you know, even though any typical African government, even though they don't want to fully utilize AI's potential, there is a lot of aspect of AI that they can leverage to their own advantage. Even if they avoid most of the things, they can help to improve citizen services. They can help to improve governance. They can help to be able to secure their own facilities, their own technologies, you know? So they can help to drive development in their nation in a number of ways. So even though it will create a lot of disruption or some displacement in a number of regards, there is so many reasons for African governments to be inspired and to be willing to take on AI for their own benefit, even if they are willing not to adopt it fully, you know? So in that regard, I would say it's a bit different from a typical technology project, and it is in everybody's interest, you know? If they are not pursuing it, they are not only facing lagging behind, you know? They may be facing the consequence of other nations who are using this technology to leverage it in a number of ways, be it militarily, be it in a number of services, in a number of regards. So governments nowadays, they start to feel because their old security and other tools are not enough because they have to catch up with AI. So that gives them incentive, you know? So transparency and those kind of things, one thing, but there are a piece of AI piece that works in their favor to make them inspired. I want to reflect on that angle.
Okay, that's quite in-depth. The last question was actually addressed to you. What tools would you recommend for screenwriting and creating short films? We have this creative from Bahrain asking these questions. Tamiru.
Oh, is that for me?
Yes.
You know, again, I am a little bit biased about Google. And if you look at my profile, I created a number of musics, videos, and a number of things. I fully leverage Google's tool, like Google VO, it's used for video, Lyra Pro, it is used for music, and I leverage fully Google and GCP to host most of these. But the good thing is most of the AIs are multimodal. They are able to support you both in audio, text, video, and whatever you want. So my suggestion is it's better to try each of them creatively by creating image, videos. I know a number of friends who are using some other tools like Thad AI, Suno, to create music, videos, and it creates amazing craft. But for me, because with Google, I have credits as well to explore, to experiment this. That gives me a leverage. Not only that I am being loyal only, I love the tools. They are powerful. At the same time, I have enough credit to utilize that tools. So my recommendation is explore the tools. Google has amazing tools, and there are also others. And usually when I got stuck on identifying some tools, I just ask Gemini, what other tools, we are usually fond of some free, safe, secured, we don't only ask free tools, we ask secured, something like that. So I ask my AI models, they give me a lot of tools, even to make customize, to host image, to resize image, and to do all those, to change MP4 into MP3, all these different process that you need to handle in the creative process. Google as an ecosystem, it gives you leverage. But maybe one thing I will add is, most of these companies, both in China, in US, they have their own technology suite, So my preference, my suggestion is instead of trying many tools here and there and being confused as to selecting the right tools, my suggestion is go select one platform. I usually say one identity, many capability. I assume Google being my identity, so it is my first go-to place to leverage most of what I think. But I'm not only bounded by that. If I am limited, if I create an image on Google, on Gemini, it has that star or the mark at the bottom right. So I take that picture, I go to ChatGPT, I ask, generate the image, just remove that Google earmark, So I work around with different tools, but go solo, creating identity on one platform, but expand capability in many platforms. That is my way of doing things the past several months.
Okay. And I know we are like 5 minutes past the time we had said we would finish. Please receive my apologies, Lucy, Tamiru, and Charles. Let's just tackle 2 more things and then we can wrap it, just with respect to your time. There's someone who made a comment, Jacob, if you just bring that up, on my LinkedIn when I posted about this live, and I responded and I said to him I would read it in this live so that y'all could respond. So this gentleman is called Ali Isat. He's the founder of Next Gen Algorithms. I'm just using my phone to read because this is a bit too tiny. This conversation is necessary, but the race framing carries a risk. Africa joining a race designed by others on infrastructure owned by others with data that flows outward. The real question isn't how fast Africa can adopt AI, it's whether Africa will own the layer beneath it. This is precisely why governance cannot be left to catch up after deployment. It never does. The corridor infrastructure going in the ground today will determine who owns the data, who monetizes the intelligence, and who controls the economics of AI in Africa for the next 30 years. The answer isn't a policy paper, it's architecture, built in before the cables are laid. And I know you can hear some of the things you all have been touching on since we started. Data sovereignty, ethical use frameworks, democratized AI economics, and corridor scale AI factories producing models trained on African context. Literally everything we've been saying. That is what the tourism-led digital spine model is designed to deliver. I think maybe that's what he's creating, I don't know. A corridor operating system where governance, data ownership, and AI infrastructure are not an afterthought. They are the foundation. Then he said he's looking forward to the panel. Not sure that he made it or not. I'll probably find out after this. But yeah, that comment, I saw it this morning. The gentleman had just left that, I think 2 days ago when I posted about this live. And you can see just how everything you have said, and even the questions that have come from the audiences, those that wanted, to find out a few things, are all tied into what you have said, how we prepared for this. And his comment especially, I thought would be worth reading here. Anyone has extra thoughts to add? Lucy, we haven't had your voice in a while.
I just spoke, but yeah, I think I have a few things here,
Okay.
and the points they've raised that he has raised are very valid. And every time I think about like Africa, we have the youngest population in the world. We'll have the youngest population, or we'll have the largest population going into the global market. We essentially have the most use cases for AI, basically, right? If you think about the role AI has in creating efficiency in problem solving, etc., right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, was it yesterday night or yesterday morning, whichever, and I haven't delved deep into this, where Google came up with a new method that they've decided on how to build data infrastructure that will be cheaper. And actually, this led to a lot of the stocks crashing, especially the semiconductor technology stocks in the US market, in the Nasdaq. They really crashed, right? And I think Charles has also mentioned it. And I keep wondering, will our government solve our problem? No. The answer is no. And there's something that he said where they always are playing catch up, right? And to some extent, we can fault them. To some extent, we cannot, right? Because regulation always comes before the fact. And even if you think about crypto, right? And the reason so many governments are averse to adopting crypto is because they don't even know how to regulate it, right? And I think that's where the balance has to come into play. Yeah. And for us to be able to really participate in this AI race, and I think Charles has kept saying it about money, we need the infrastructure, we need compute, we need proper power. We still have countries, and I don't think there's an African country that's still not suffering with like some more than others, but without like power problems, right? We need to start building our own data centers. We need to start having data sovereignty, data protection policies in place, and that are actually being enhanced, right? So I think the role here is both the government, the private sector, and then also really developing talent. Like, we need to start thinking about, do we have enough policy people in Africa, right? And are they actively in also global policies, so that as they're building policy in Africa, it's also a reflection, because whether we like it or not, they're still ahead, right? They're still ahead of us. So I think it has to be a combination of both public and private sector combining. And I really do not know where the honors lies as towards like responsibility, but it has to be a combination of both. Yeah, I think that's what will be my contribution from that. And I've seen like very interesting things that our tech ambassador in Kenya is doing when it comes to AI, from going to prisons, from speaking to pastors in churches, etc. I'm not sure what the end goal is there, but I think it has to always be a balance. And maybe the end goal is they're looking at how our local communities adopt things, and churches are like one of our central points for communities in Africa. And maybe that's what they're looking at. And maybe, I don't know what their end goal is, but they can't do it by themselves. There has to be development finance coming in. There has to be the private sector involved, but also the government, yes, can support in terms of regulation and policies, but they can also do it only to a certain extent. I'll let Charles and Tamiru add there, but yeah, I think that's just my 2 cents there.
If you think about the money that is being spent, so we want to build something, so we go and get AWS or GCP or Microsoft Azure. The money you're spending on there, you're returning basically the money to a company in the West. Even if you decide you're going to go to Alibaba or you're going to use Oracle, any of all these companies that have got AI, that's allowing you AI, you're using AI compute, that's money leaving Africa. So the challenge is already of, we have a challenge of getting our data. We're spending money that's going out. And then let's not also forget the brain drain in Africa, the talent that's already leaving. They say that 3 to 5% of the talent, global talent, is African, and most of it is leaving Africa to go and work in different places. There are just a number of other factors, and so the risk is something that we definitely have to be very much aware of. Every company, every nation has to look and ask, what is the risk here? If we do this, what is the risk? If we don't do this, what is the risk? What is the risk of being left behind? What is the risk of not having a good AI policy? Rwanda has a budget for AI. It's the first African country that has come ring fencing a budget for that. Is there something that we can be able to look and say, okay, this is what we're doing? So every nation has to sit down, every organization has to sit down, whether it's an NGO, whether it's an innovator who is sitting somewhere and sitting down and thinking, how can I make this work for me? You need to do a risk analysis. You need to look at yourself and ask, if I don't go this way, what happens? If I go to Hugging Face and you see the models that are out there and take one of them and use it to play around with my data, what can happen? I was excited to see that Musingi AI and NVIDIA are collaborating. There are many people who are doing great things using AI in Africa. Governance is important. Ali, I agree with you. If we don't take charge of our own governance, we will discover that a new form of colonialism is what is happening. We have to take charge and break free and make sure that we are breaking free and building something that the whole world is going to look up and say, this is what we need.
Thank you for that, Charles. And my last question to all of you, and I'll start with you, Tamiru, is if you are advising heads of state in Africa on the 3 investments they need to prioritize in order to make this continent competitive in this age of AI, what would those 3 investments be?
Okay, thank you, Catherine. So I wanted to touch on the earlier point briefly, what I think it is from Ali, if I'm not mistaken, the whole point around data protection. Lucy also mentioned it, Charles indicated it, and data sovereignty, digital sovereignty, and who owns Africa data. All this, this being a current hot topic, and it is a very strategic viewpoint, and it indicates to the huge risk inherent in the overall cloud operation, But one fact is, it's not only Africa that is worried about its sovereignty using data and technology information using these big tech companies, with the frontier models. Even Europe is very strict and being concerned in its data sovereignty, because if you look at the data, more than 60 or around 70% of the cloud operation in Europe is currently supplied by American entity like Amazon, AWS, Azure, and GCP, Google from Google. So they start noticing the risk associated with that. And this is typically due to the ongoing new emerging challenges, geopolitics, and the companies being in the US. How can the US government may act in terms of especially using these different technology or different instruments as a kind of competing forces globally. So many are becoming concerned. So Ali raised a good point throughout that his shared note. The only thing I differ from him is he put like, how can Africa be ready for AI in 30 years, So that is a little bit less optimistic because it's happening in a number of ways in its own way. If you go to South Africa, you see a lot of new development, matured research facility, matured data cloud, and a lot of new model. The same thing, I'm following some companies in Kenya who are supplying the data side of AI business globally. And even there are from the model and from the voice angle in Nigeria as well, in Rwanda as well. Even in Ethiopia, we have this 2030 digital 2030 strategy where AI becoming the key pillar of the overall development initiative, So maybe instead of specifically the investment that they need, what should be the focus area? Charles mentioned it a number of times. All those, the layer of AI stack from infrastructure, data, energy, water, everything has to be there. But at the same time, the spirit of this whole initiative, knowing that AI is here to stay, and there is opportunity and there is risk inside it, and we have to be able to exploit the opportunity, at the same time manage the consequences, the negative side of it, because that is also very dangerous. When people talk about deep fake, there are times we reach a level like we no longer able to differentiate what is real, what's not real. Whenever we see some videos here in my family, even my little kid, she says, is it AI or is it real? So people are being confused with what is real, what's or not. So this is one of risk of AI. So we have to be able to do that. But at the same time, as Lucy said, AI is not only a government endeavor. So there should be a partnership, investment, risk capital, patient capital, and strong collaboration with the private sector. And at the same time, what I strongly pitch is, especially when the global geopolitics is highly differentiated, changing every time, and with China and US being the super competing force with their own tech stack, which tech stack that we bring in our nation building for whatever opportunity, whether we are considering open source, closed source, the strategy we choose to go with China or America is going to define our strategy and how we are going to balance it somehow. And my final point is for the digital sovereignty position, including Ethiopia, many countries come up with data protection regulation, which restrict even the big tech to ensure that the data stays locally and something like that. So such kind of restrictive regulations, they are helpful, but they should be taken deliberately, because if you are very strict in your data sovereignty or digital sovereignty, you become too insulated from the global innovation and you will be left to the local technology only. So we will miss on global learning, global shared experience, At the same time, if we become loose and allow all other big cloud with their data storage outside our country, we may risk in terms of national security and others. So I strongly advise investment focused around balancing data sovereignty between insulation and extra loose activity, and at the same time making sure that operations, the data operation, the business operation, follow the formal process, documenting process beyond conducting day-to-day business using WhatsApp and Telegram, which is out of the normal repository of the business scenario. This is my high-level thoughts around that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamiru. Thank you for that. Charles? The 3 investments governments need to make.
Infrastructure, people. We need to invest in our people. Lucy made a point that people in university are being taught on knowledge that is old by people who are not current. We need to change that. We need to be able to have people who are definitely being educated on what is current to be relevant with the challenges of today. And a third thing that I would point out definitely is create an environment where innovation is allowed to flourish. If we see something great, something being done, let's push it. As you've said, that the ambassador of AI and tech in Kenya is going around different places. If we can then be able to take some of the ideas that are there, I've seen farmers AI looking to help farmers in Kenya. If we can take some of those ideas and push them and put them out there in the world, let's talk about them so that even other nations can now come and decide and say, oh, this is a great idea. Maybe we can invest in it. I saw a job going this week that amazed me, that left me wondering why. Somebody in San Francisco has created something to be able to help with academic, with education in Kenya, and they are looking for a product manager to be based in Nairobi, who would be going between Nairobi and San Francisco. And the tool they've made it in such a way, using AI, that can work on a phone that's worth at least a maximum $50. So that's basically, it's not a very expensive phone. We're not talking about the latest Samsung. For that, we're talking about any Android phone that's going to be out there. And I asked myself, how come this is being created in San Francisco and not being created in Nairobi? And then we can export it out. So we need to create an environment where we are exporting innovative ideas. The same way the world talks about M-Pesa, and I've banged a lot about M-Pesa. The same way the world talks about M-Pesa. Somebody in Africa has got an idea and they'll be able to do a lot with it. And we haven't touched on a lot of things. There's a lot of innovation being done across the different countries across Africa. There are some companies that have been able to exit. I think I had one that maybe when they were exiting, I think there's a talk of about like 600 million or something when the guys were exiting of selling the startup. So there are ideas that are there. Let's create a climate where those ideas can flourish, because what will end up happening, if somebody creates a very good, for example, somebody creates something that is so good, say for example dealing with cancer in Africa, and then we sell it across the world, that money is going to remain in Africa. It's not going to go outside. So if we allow that kind of flourishing of innovative ideas, there's money that's going to come inside Africa and it's going to help develop the continent.
I like that. I like that. Hopefully it will. Hopefully the money will be used to develop the continent, at least a large chunk of it.
I have faith that we will do that. My faith is that we will have that happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank
Lucy, the 3 investments that you would advise any head of state in our beautiful continent to put in place to make us AI competitive.
So Charles has said all 3 of mine.
Okay.
I want to iterate on, so like my 3 ones were data infrastructure, data centers. We're seeing it happening globally. We have land and we can figure out like how to maintain data centers, right? People, but then just to expand on what Charles has said on creating an environment. So like the product that you just spoken about, we have a girl in our community who's in university that has created a tool that can help university students study better, right?
Wow.
But is she being supported, right? So how can our government create, and again, this is just not only on the government, but I think they play a bigger role in this, because yes, this student will create her idea, It will help her, it will help other students, but ultimately she needs to distribute it. So she needs a bit of funding, she needs patient capital, right? So how can our governments create, and every time we do a hackathon as Women in Tech Kenya, like half of the time I'm so awed by how people below 20, like, because they're still in university, like the solutions that they can actually conceptualize and build. So it's not that people don't have ideas, it's not that we have very talented people, we have people who can build, but how do we let their ideas not go to waste, right? How do we just create that culture of innovation, maybe create hubs where they build stuff and stuff is released out to the world, but just create that culture of innovation that they're also funded and also mentored and supported to be able to create out of the ideas like real companies, because the same way is the same way they'll also like build upon employment, right? So how do we just create that innovation hubs, I'll say, to just help them?
Well, thank you. Thank you for your contribution. I have faith there'll be some heads of state watching this, or at least the people who serve around them, or at least the people who serve around them, and they'll be like, huh, okay, that doesn't sound too bad. What I've always believed also is that majority of them know that it needs to be done, and it's also not for want of, it's not a lack of knowledge, it's not a lack of the people to do it. If they wanted to find Lucy, they would find Lucy or Tamiru or Charles, they would. So I've always been befuddled by why aren't you doing it already, you know? But those are other conversations for other live stream topics. But I want to thank the three of you also for your patience in just extending this time a little bit. We had a bit of a we had a bit of a rough start. Oh gosh, but you've been so patient and wonderful, and you have shared quite a bit today. And obviously we haven't touched a lot on, you know, the cybersecurity angle, the data protection. I know we just had little sprinklings on that, but that may be another live stream altogether. But I want to thank you. There's something Lucy said about Africa having the youngest demographic globally. And in between these conversations, sort of, I knew the education factor would come up, even as you've seen in the comments. Lots of people have been asking, how do I do this? How do I do this? And you've all just emphasized on the need of teach yourself. Like, you can't say this came and I was just left, I didn't know what to do. And Lucy said, start podcast, do something, do anything. So this is a little part. And if you're watching now, our next live stream next Sunday, same time, it's going to be on education. And yes, education obviously plays a very big role in this continent. We need to educate people. Like, we need to educate them not based on what I learned or what my parents learned, but educating them for the future. And so that's what's coming up next weekend, next Sunday to be specific, just letting people watching know that. And so if you're in the education space, you know, reach out to us. We're on all social media platforms. Reach out to us. Let us know that this is your space. You want to come and have this conversation and contribute to that. It looks like Jacob and I have been chatting. We're like, oh my gosh, it looks like this will end up being 3-hour conversations. And I'm like, no, we'll be calling for co-hosts soon. But for this one, I'll be doing this with Polycarp Wekesa, whom I met on LinkedIn last week, and he's been very beneficial in just putting this together. Today's topic, just giving honor where it's due. Jacob, you can remove the poster now. Thank you. I'm sure they have heard we'll be doing this next week. Today's topic curated with Tamiru here. So Tamiru and I have meetings maybe twice a month, I think. And so when he watched the one we did on the finance bill, and then I said, you know, we need to do just a live stream on something AI. And he just quickly, it just came out of him like that. I said, oh my gosh, yeah, I don't know what that means, but yes, we're going to do it. We will find people who can just help support the conversation. So I thank you, Charles Karanja, Kenyan in the diaspora, specifically the UK. I thank you, Lucy Mbuthia. You're my homie. You're here with me here in Nairobi. It's not good to say where we are, especially if you're in Nairobi, but it's fine. And Tamiru, Thank you so much also as well for being here from Addis Ababa. I'm hoping we can do this in person in Addis. This is me gunning for a free flight. In Addis
Yeah,
Ababa.
we'll see what we can do with Ethiopian Airlines. But at the same time, if you ask me to fly to Nairobi, I am happy, you know. But accommodation is on you.
We want to come and celebrate the 5 million people that your government has invested in.
Nice.
But thank you so much, Lucy,
Sure.
Charles, and Tamiru for just being on this live stream, and as well as the people who just took time to comment, to put questions in there, to comment, to let us know how you're using AI. This is our conversation as a continent. That's why it's called the African Conversation. It is for anyone who lives in Africa, works in Africa, calls Africa home, and whether you're based here or a diasporan like Charles, this is our conversation. So feel free, recommend topics you want us to talk about. I was telling somebody the other day, June is already gone. We just put out this announcement 2 days ago, and everybody has been there saying, I want us to talk about this, and that is exactly what you want. So it's topics that are meaningful for Africans, relevant for Africans, and if they can watch that and say, oh, I learned something today, then we'll have done our part, and we've all done our part. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jacob, for being behind the scenes, producing this. So we'll say goodbye now because, you know, I can talk. So we shall say goodbye, and until next Sunday, meet us here for the education live stream. Yeah, have a good evening.